Everyone knows about Titania and Oberon, and a lot of people know about the Queen and Heir in Darkness. But what about some other Archfey? Darker Archfey. If you're a DM, I just know you're looking to add trouble to your Feywild. Or maybe you need a cool warlock patron. An Archfey that's not Baba Yaga or Titania. I was looking through the Forgotten Realms wiki and realized there were a few Archfey listed that I've just never looked into, all of which were on that darker side of things. So today I'm talking about Neoda, the Lord of Bats, hope I'm saying these correctly by the way, Neoda, Princess of the Shadow Glass, and the Stag King. See the light difference when I hold my notes in front of me. For all the sources I use today, links are in the description if you want to know more. I don't just give summaries of what these Archfey are like, their histories, but I'm also going to give some ideas on how to include them in a campaign. They might be a little more broad, a little more specific at times. And if you have any ideas on how to implement them into your world or into my world or just use these characters, let me know. And of course, if you like this video, like it. If you want to see more like it, then subscribe. And let's get into it. First, we're talking Neoda, Lord of Bats, who is, simply put, very bat-like in appearance. He has long limbs, bat-like fur, bat-like wings, fangs. And when he's in disguise, he sort of just looks like a pale human with longer ears. He wears dark clothing. He basically leans into a Dracula aesthetic. And in some of his history or past drama, one of his warlocks, Japheth Donard, imprisoned him in his castle by stealing something called the Pact Stone. For a time, Japheth even controlled him by placing an artificial sun outside his castle. Neoda was eventually able to escape given the aid of an outside party, but I want to talk about his castle. This castle is built of black rock, it's in a Gothic style, and it's called Derrick Castle. It can be found deep within the caves of the Feywild in a massive cave-like space. Its spires extend, almost touching the ceiling. The castle even has these bat-like wings carved out of the side of it. I can honestly see a whole arc of a campaign of your party trying to traverse the caves of the Feywild, these winding, dark, dangerous spaces, and trying to find this castle. The lore as written suggests that Neoda and maybe Derrick Castle don't exist anymore, but as with D&D lore, when it's your campaign, I think you can decide what still stands or not. Neoda could be a dangerous enemy or a neutral party who can potentially be very helpful to them. I can see one of your party members being a warlock with him as a patron, especially if one of your party members is a Dampier and you're going for that vampiric horror element in your Feywild. I think he would be perfect. Let's say you don't have a warlock with Neoda as a patron. His existence in survival could just be a big question mark. Whether or not Derrick Castle really exists, whether it ever existed. If it exists, there could be some rumor or legend of a powerful magical item existing within it, which I will get to in a minute. I have an idea for your item. Another website I found also suggests that it's in the Winter Court, which would make it not only a dangerous place to access because of this deep, dark cave system, but also because the Winter Court is dangerous. This would be a very high level party arc. The artifact could be a trek bell, which Neoda was said to have. It's a giant bell that can hold 4 or 5 people in it, and you can use it as transportation. It's said to be able to move through earth, stone, and even water, but it's not completely safe. This is a bell, so you could fall out the bottom of it in transport. But I assume that everyone would hold on to the middle part, which is called the clapper. Hardly know her. I could see this bell being made small. It should probably still be covered in runes and look very intricate and beautiful and worthy of its status as an ancient, powerful item. It would probably also require attunement, but that would make it more manageable as an item that the party has with them. And it could work so that one person has access to it, and whenever they want to use it to teleport, everyone around them could be in contact with that person, and as long as they teleport with them. If you wanted this to be an ancient, powerful item, you'd have to decide just how powerful to make it. Let's say it could transport the party anywhere within the Feywild. That covers a lot of ground and transportation issues. It could have a total of 3 charges or even just 1 charge. That would make sense to me. If maybe once upon a time it had more and it only has 1 left, that would force them to be very careful about when and how they use it. Or maybe you want them to have the option to literally teleport anywhere they want. You know, you get to decide how much limitations you put on something like this. A little more information about Nefion. Another website says that he was once a general and possibly a spy master of the Queen of Air and Darkness. And I have a whole other video on her that I'll link. So if you want to check that out, please do. At the height of his power, he even expanded into the material plane, controlling his servants on both the Feywild and the material plane all at once. And to these servants, or more accurately, slaves, he was extremely cruel. I also read somewhere that instead of the material plane, he existed in simultaneously the Feywild and the Shadow Plane at the same time. Some other fun facts: Nefion can, unsurprisingly, summon and control bats as well as restraining vines. Next we have Neoda, Princess of the Shadow Glass. She's also called the Lady of Dread Omens or the Seeker of the 3 Crowns, and she ruled under the Queen of Air and Darkness, although she wants to usurp her as Queen of the Unseelie Court. Most of the information I have about her actually comes from the Candlekeep Mysteries book, so here's a quick spoiler alert if you're trying to avoid any lore from that text. Her appearance is very cool. She's supposed to be tall, about 9 feet tall, humanoid, but she is made of dark, shadowy, glass-like material. Her eyes are a piercing green that look like fire, and she can cloak herself in darkness, absorbing all the light around her. She is also supposed to be cruel, arrogant, and immature. Like I said, she wants to usurp the Queen of Air and Darkness, who has a certain noble courtesy. She's viewed as a dark figure, often an evil figure, but she can still hold her own in court. She has an understanding of courtly behaviors, which Neoda just doesn't. Some history on her: she was once just a normal fae, probably an Eladrin, and as she gained power, she eventually rose to Archfey status. For her crimes against the Queen of Air and Darkness, she was bound within an extra-dimensional prison linked with the Scrivener's Tale, a book penned by the mortal elf Zirian of Falorm, also known as the Scrivener. For the purposes of this video, here's what you need to know. The book is cursed with something called the Scrivener's Mark, which is a curse that can only be removed as magic is powerful as something like a wish spell. It was kept in a ruined library in an ancient city until it was discovered by a person who received that mark and had to get it removed with something like the wish spell. Actually, it was the wish spell. It was then moved to the library fortress of Candlekeep. It was accidentally handed over to a group of adventurers, and when they came into contact with it, they took on that mark, the curse, and it drew the attention of the Queen of Air and Darkness. More problems arose because Neoda, despite being bound by the book, can telepathically communicate with anyone who has received that mark, who's received that curse. She began to manipulate the different members of the party who had received the mark, trying to convince each of them that they could be the hero and free their friends, and eventually they started a ritual using the book. As I understand it, the goal of the ritual was to free one another from the mark, but Neoda became desperate, and once they started the ritual, she was able to use that magic to free herself from the book. When she did, she started a vicious attack against this party who just barely held their own. They were able to defeat her, and when they did, it is said that the book crumbled into dust and ash. If you want Neoda in your campaign, then obviously she can't have been defeated by something like this. Maybe this whole story with the adventuring party never happened and she's still bound by the book, or maybe it did happen. In that case, the trouble with the book crumbling could be that it was the final symbol of her being fully released from it, and that her body was never found. So it's assumed that she was killed in that moment, but really she's in hiding, sort of Voldemort style, trying to regain her power until she can once again attack the Queen of Air and Darkness. Here's the thing with the Seelie and Unseelie courts. Titania and the Queen of Air and Darkness are rumored to be sisters. Again, I have their whole lore in that other video that I'll link below. The Seelie and the Unseelie court aren't distinctly aligned with goodness and evilness. It's just who a certain Fae aligns themselves with. They are known to feud, send spies back and forth, to have little unspoken of secret skirmishes between one another, but nothing fully comes to light. There is never anything done that would cause all-out war. Titania would have a very particular interest in ensuring that her sister is never usurped, because someone like Neoda, if she took over, could cause that kind of war, might make a big move. Titania wouldn't want her hand to be forced, so maybe she reaches out to the party, or they come to her and she asks them to look into the disappearance of Neoda. Maybe she's just heard whispers on the wind, or has a feeling that she's not fully gone, and she wants the party to figure out if she is still alive or not, and if she is, to try and get rid of her. Because Titania knows that the existence of the Queen of Air and Darkness is ultimately best for the peace and the safety of the Feywild. Last, but certainly not least, we have the Stag King. The Stag King is a huge Fae with big stag antlers. He is what he sounds like. He does mostly look human. He has some facial features that resemble deer or a stag, but he mostly, like I said, looks human. His offspring, on the other hand, much more strongly resemble deer in the face. So for the Stag King's history, centuries ago, he's many centuries old, or was, he aided a tribe of elves in exchange for the right to mate with 3 of their maidens. I'm going to assume that the maidens selected for this, they enthusiastically volunteered for the job. That's part of my lore. Over the centuries, the offspring from these 3 maidens grew in numbers until eventually the Stag King returned and claimed the title of king over all of them. The story goes that at some point during the centuries, a mercenary captain asked for his army's aid. If you want to know more information about the battle and who they were fighting, like I said, there are links below. During the battle, the Stag King was tricked, and he was separated from his men, and a group of vampires killed him. In some places, it's rumored that at night, over big bonfires, you can see the Stag King rising above the smoke. A sighting like this tells the one who viewed it that within the next year, they are going to have some sort of adventure. So already, if you need a really cool adventure hook, I mean, come on. What better than a dead Archfey as a sign, or as someone directly speaking to the party? But as with the other Archfey, you could make it so that the Stag King is very much alive and well. You can make it so that the battle did happen and his body was just never found, or that the battle never happened at all. That's just not a part of your history. I don't know if I wasn't looking in the right place, but that is all I could find about the Stag King. I find it strange because he's described as a dark Archfey, but no part of his history sounds entirely dark. He did present himself as a ruler of a people that he birthed centuries ago, but I mean, as far as dark acts go, I think that's pretty tame. I do have another idea for him though, and you'll have to tell me what you think of this. I think he could be combined with Ceranos, the Archfey in charge of the Wild Hunt. I do also talk about Ceranos in my video on the Queen of Air and Darkness, not to plug it too much, but I'll give you a little bit about him here, so you can tell me what you think of this idea. So first of all, they both have human bodies and stag heads. Ceranos, his stag head is supposed to be just a mask, but you could just adjust that a little bit. Ceranos could be the Stag King reincarnated. Let's say the battle did take place. Maybe he was reincarnated as a vampire or just as an undead, because the lore behind Ceranos is that even if he's destroyed, he always returns. Ceranos just can't be truly killed. His undeath could be a curse, or it could be his connection to the never-ending hunt. The wild hunt is supposed to be known as a terrifying, tormenting thing, but it's also, for him, Ceranos, supposed to be a way to help maintain the balance of nature. His continued cycle of life and death could be a representation of the cycle of nature, the circle of life. In my Feywild, I do have the Wild Hunt as an entity working under the Queen of Air and Darkness as an evil form. I think you could have it as a neutral party. Maybe the Stag King tried to aid Neoda in going against her, and she was the one responsible for getting him killed in battle, or tricked him, or turned him into Ceranos, put him in charge of the Wild Hunt as a way to control him and have him, is pay penance the right phrase for this? Or is it just experience punishment? You'll have to tell me what you think of this, because I'm just not sure what to do with him. And like I said earlier, tell me what you would do with any of these characters. Before I wrap up, quick plug, I do have a Patreon now. I'm working to get stuff made and published on there, but if you want to go ahead and support me in the meantime, the link for that is also in the bio. I also have a Discord. I don't post it or mention it much, but the link for that will also be in the description of this video. Just wanted to throw it back out there just in case there's any new subscribers who would be interested in hanging out with us there. But that is all I have for you today. I hope you have a great whatever it is, and I will see you next time.